when you sort of got out of this segment of speaking that because you said the military, the jail, and the drugs and the sex and all this stuff. Like, do you like that was a highlight reel of your life, but do you know how you ended up like that? Like, can you relate that and go, it's because my childhood upbringing, or I had a mum but I didn't have a dad, or I come from a broken home, or my dad was an alcoholic, or like, can you understand why that happened? But why, by you saying that this?
Yeah, I can understand it. I'm gonna honor myself and not share it. But I do understand. I have linked it into childhood, not in particular too much my mum and my dad. Like, obviously they impacted it to some level, but it was more my teenage years, 12 onward. And, I not lived on the street. So I like to explore the street life when I was from about 14 onward.
I think that a lot of teenage. I'm only not interrupting. I'm just saying this because you brought it up. But I think that there's something missing when we start to go into that puberty, go into that teenage years, where I think us men and women, I think we need a fucking rite of passage. I think we need something like if you're like 11 and you go to your dad and go, Dad, I think I got a pube. Or if you're 12, you're like, Dad, I think I got a pube. I think I'm turning into a man. I'm about to be a teenager. I think you got to pick that kid up, and I think you got to like go rock climbing, go do something, go canyoneering, do something where they go into that, they break free of that, fight or flight response, or that stress hormone, like all this stuff that's sort of within the mind that's trying to develop. Like, I think you've got to like take a whitewater rafting where it feels like it's gonna where it needs to get into a flight of survival. Because if you look at like what happens with animals, Amazonian animals or African animals, like they go through that transition of being a baby into this. Now what you got to defend for yourself. Like, now you got to hunt down the fucking zebra. Now you got to fucking, you know what I mean? Like there's a big transition that happens in the animal world. And I think that we've lost it within our tribal ways, where this is why we go to drugs and alcohol and the wrong friends. Like, it's like there's something that's not happening in the family unit anymore. We need to go out into the wild. Yeah. This is where I think that this is what, like, a lot of, I think, is what's missing. That true tribal nature. We got to put our kids through a rite of passage of, breaking that.
100%. There's this guy called Bill Plotkin. He's a depth psychologist and nature wilderness guide. Incredible man. I've read like his books called Nature and the Human Soul, but he talks about the different phases of human experience, and from his perspective, it seems pretty spot on. I'm sure there's holes in it, like anything, but he talks about this. What exactly thing you're talking about? It's like we are missing the rites of passage for girls and boys to go into men and women. And often what we're doing is we're looking for that rites of passage, and it's usually like you have fraternity wards and you've got like the partying, and we're looking for it in the wrong places: sex, drugs, alcohol, because we're still caught up in this adolescent stage. And you still see people who are like 40, 50, they're stuck in the adolescent stage of like, it's their groups, sex, it's like what material things they have, what they're doing, and who they're relating to. That's all adolescence. There's nothing mature about that. That's very, very immature. To move into like maturity, real maturity, it's like you actually have to descend, let go of all that shit, of what you formulated, let go of that identity. This is the rite of passage.
It's funny you say that, because I don't know if you seen my story yesterday about the man cave.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. I was just talking about the man cave and how men have that, they've got a bar, or they've got a sports room, and it's the man cave. And it's like, you're 40 years old and you've turned your garage into a game station to play video games. Like, like
it's a boy cave. Like, it's a second bedroom. It's just another little, like, they're trying to relive their childhood bedroom or relive it in a adult way, but ultimately it's just immaturity. Like, it's because we've missed that rite of passage. It's because we don't have points of reference in like at different stages, people who are at different stages. So like, you got full elders, right? We don't have elders. If we had true elders and you didn't have all these retirement homes, and all these retirement homes actually had or weren't there, we had them at full eldership, well, wouldn't be where it's at, right?
Do you think Bunnings is the new retirement village?
Could be.
That's where they all are, bro. They're all 60 and they're all ready for retirement in Bunnings.
Yeah.
You might see the odd young fella, but Bunnings is the modern day retirement home.
Can't say I go there very often, so. But yeah, I agree with you. It's like they're all looking, these elders, these older men and women, they hit their 60s, kids are moving out. They don't know what to do with themselves. They've got no fucking idea, Some of them do. Some of them have an awakening. Go, fuck, what have I done with my life? And start to shift it, I've met a couple and I'm like, holy shit, that's wild, 57, 60, coming to my men's circles and they're like, man, fuck. If you saw me 7 years ago, life was shit shape, all this sort of thing. And they're going through it, trying to become an elder because they missed it. But I feel like for us, it's like, growing up, I think this is what our role will end up becoming. In some way, we'll become spiritually mature reference points for these younger kids that are coming in. And, there are an abundance of rites of passage things that are starting to pop up and starting to form. And it's necessary, but unfortunately, it's not always accessible for these young kids because it's the parents are ultimately the gatekeepers, and most of these parents out there today are immature guides who are practically children themselves, who are they're struggling just getting by. They might not look like they're getting by, like they could be very wealthy. They might be very wealthy in the money material sense. And they look on the outside that everything's sweet, but internally there's a fragility within their psyche because of the missing pieces of what you're speaking to. Is like, in the olden days, like the real olden days, it was like, here's your spear. So this is for the boys. Here's your spear, son. You're 12 years old now. There's a cave over there with a giant bear in it. Now you're going to come in and you're going to kill that bear. And if you don't, saber-tooth. If you don't, then come back next life, sort of thing. That's fucking brutal. Like that's gnarly. Even in like there's a tribe. I don't know what tribe it is where they get like the I remember on the TV show.
Throw them off that boardwalk where they with the rope.
No, yeah, there's that one, but this other one where they get
it's fine.
The fire ants. And they have to put the glove
put them on gloves.
Yeah, they're going to put the glove on. I think it's 10 or 15 minutes. And they've got to not scream.
That's the rite of passage.
That's the rite of passage. There's other ones where they've got to like chop genitals off which I don't get that one. There's all sorts of weird ones out there, which, you look at us in the West, it's nothing, and it's unfortunate because that's what gets us, That's why my life unfolded the way it did. I probably, honestly could admit that like up until my 30s, up until I turned 30, I was still a boy, trying to figure out how to be a man. And it was when I became sober. So for my main drug of choice was always cannabis. Smoked it from 12, and kind of like what you were touching on with the alcohol. It's like, I haven't touched it since. It's almost been 3.5 years. But that was a huge journey. It took me 2 years to quit. 2 years to quit it.
So it's sober to you not smoking weed?
Yeah, completely sober. I don't take any other drugs.
So if I say I'm sober from not drinking and I smoke weed, I'm not sober then?
No, you're not sober. But then I was talking with a friend and he was talking about, and very few people can do this, of course. Whenever you take drink or you smoke or you take something, there's a door, right? And you only have to look at plant medicines as the perfect example. So you take plant medicine, you open that fucking door. But with like cannabis and alcohol, most people with alcohol with one drink, no, I wouldn't say most people, some people with one drink can keep that door shut from things entering. They can have one drink with their dinner. That's it.
I heard that it's via the throat chakra. That because you drink, you open up the throat chakra, which is then the portal to be hijacked.
Yeah, I don't feel like I feel like where I've landed at, and I've really tried to inquire into this as with different conversations. I don't feel like if you have, I'm not saying to go have a drink to anyone listening, but I don't feel like if you have one drink, you're going to ultimately 100% become hijacked. I think there's a lot of factors to it. It's not just alcohol. It always comes down to as well your sort of spiritual maturity, also the cleanliness of your life as well. You know, do you live in an environment which is ordered, pure? Are you learning to master your thoughts, your feelings, your habits, behaviors, recognizing patterns? Are you dissolving limiting beliefs? Are you looking at the different ways, different limiting assumptions that you're making throughout life? And I think they all play a factor to whether we become hijacked, because I really feel like these entities or these invisible forces, all of that, all those the limiting things create like and this is, I don't even know if this is true, I'm just speaking, a magnetic pull, a dark magnetic pull, right? And vice versa. Like you might have a magnetic pull that's of light, of love, of light and love and kindness and purity and truth and wisdom and justice, divine righteousness, all that sort of stuff, where you might pull in through your powerful and potent beliefs and assumptions and thoughts and feelings and of the more beautiful side of life. You will magnetize, you know, potentially, I don't know, benevolent beings to support you, you know. So how I kind of link that into like, say, alcohol, you know, in an olden day, they used to drink alcohol in a very sacred way. It was very sacred, except now it's not sacred. You can go down to any fucking shop and
that's different.
Buy it.
It's completely different.
It's
alcohol, isn't it?
Exactly, completely different. So this is what I'm kind of saying is like, you could have one glass of red wine with dinner, right, by yourself or with people or whatever. And it doesn't mean that you're going to get hijacked or open the door to other things. The door can still remain closed, but if you're not careful, one drink could open the door ajar where you could be peeking in without not realizing it, and something could come through and hijack you, like you're saying. So it's interesting. This is just something I'm sitting with. It's not something I've landed at as this is how it is. Like I'm sitting with this because I don't smoke. I don't take hard drinks. I occasionally have a red wine. Occasionally. Like I've probably had 4 or 5 glasses this year. Single small glasses. Because I like to enjoy it with like Italian. I love Italian food. It's like glass of red with Italian food. It's just, I don't know, something about it for me. But it's not like that, how I used to smoke and drink and take drugs, where it was like, I'm feeling a shitty emotion. I'm feeling shit. Something's going on in me that I don't like. What can I take to fix that? And then something else I was chatting to a mate about, this is quite interesting. I kind of want to hear your take on this, actually. We're talking about like plant medicines and, you know, ice baths, saunas, particular breath works, all those things that kind of create like an intense experience, a good to intense experience, right? And I don't get me wrong, I love ice baths, saunas, breath work. I don't take plant medicine, I'm done with it. But we're talking about is that a comfort blanket? Are we doing that? If, like, obviously with sauna and ice bath, there's a lot of benefits to it. So I'm not saying to stop doing this. I'm more saying is like, can we get addicted to it because it's giving us a release of certain alchemical chemical things inside, that we become addicted to, that become like a blanket, a comfort blanket, right? So you look at breath work and say plant medicine, for instance, it's like, if you look at the people that are really doing it all the time, there's like they do it, and then there's like a lull, like, I feel good. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I think I need another journey. I think I need to do another breath work, because the comfort blanket is starting to wear off. And then all the, like, the uncomfort, the discomfort, the dissatisfaction, the underlying self-doubt, the unworthiness, the not good enough, all these little human conditioned beliefs, or beliefs that we all experience on some level. I'm not loved, I'm not liked. All these things on some level that we might experience. Doesn't mean we have experienced all of them, but we do experience most of them. Like, you can probably, this one especially, dissatisfaction. Any point in your life, you can sense an underlying dissatisfaction within you. You're just not satisfied with what's going on. It could be anything. It could be like an uncomfortable sock, so something as stupid as that. So I wonder if these things that we're doing that are positive, breath work, ice bath, saunas, could also be another form of comfort, addiction, and avoidance from what's actually happening deeper within our psyche. Something we're sitting with myself. And I'm just, so everyone knows, I do ice bath saunas and
so, like, do you mean like just within a replacement of that? So instead of like it being substance, you're just replacing that, but it's a very similar thing.
Similar but different. So as in, it's like, what happens if like something's happening in our life and we actually just need to sit with something? I need to sit with this emotion that's coming up and, really inquire into, why is this emotion coming up? When and I've heard this, like, oh, I need an ice bath. No, I just need to get into the sauna. I need to get discomfort. No, I need to go hyperventilate and it'll make me feel good, and then, yeah, you feel good. Like, after you fucking do a 6-minute ice bath, 10-minute ice bath, you feel fucking amazing. Same as sauna, same as breath work. But did you just miss a key moment of feeling shame, of feeling guilt, of feeling unworthy, feeling like a piece of shit, and just actually embracing that and going, I need to love this. I need to love this part that's feeling this, and just honor that right now in this moment. Not go and do the intense experience that, yes, will release the beautiful feelings, but often can be a distraction from the more subtle, I guess I'm talking about more the more subtle experience of the human condition. Because ultimately, as well, like everyone knows that we live in,
if you had a moment to feel into sadness,
mm-hmm.
and you paused and you stopped and you felt it and you go, I'm feeling into this sadness, right? I'm using the word sadness.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Let's say that you were Asian and,
yeah.
and you did not know what the word sadness was. You only knew what a word in Mandarin that was something similar to sadness, right? Let's just say you're French,
mm-hmm.
and you didn't know what the English word of sadness was. Or let's say that you're an Italian and you didn't, maybe you are because you like Italian food. But let's just say that you did not, you're Italian and your inside mind voice spoke to you in Italian. Well, then you wouldn't even know what the word sadness was. Right. So these are all things that we just get familiar with because we know them by words, but sometimes we're always finding something wrong with us.
Yeah.
Right. So are we actually feeling these things that we actually think they are, or are they just actually just a part of us, going from ice baths to saunas and all of these things, like they all suck, right? So if we're trying to sort of replace that high or replace that feeling or trying to leapfrog over an emotion, it's sort of like, well, are we doing this in a way of frequency. We're just raising the frequency. We're raising it, right? While you're talking before, I was trying to like Google a winding clock, right? Because you constantly, you wind a clock, maybe 20 times, you let it go, and that clock will tick for 24 hours.
Yeah.
So the ice bath is me winding the clock. The sauna is me, winding the actual clock, right? So I think depending on actually what you're doing, I think they're all got their own feelings. They're all opening different parts of the brain. Your brain's such a big place. We still get to feel sadness. We still get to feel pain, but that dopamine hit, that is just that stimulant within the mind. Like I still get to feel down and depressed, but I'm exploring this whole other thing that is just it's not a high, it's raising that vibration. Right? It's something, but I get it. Are we just substituting something else because are we addicted? Are we addicted to feeling a certain way? I'm over that high. I want this different high, but I do that, right? So, I sort of get what you're saying, if that's what you're saying.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's more so like, I'm a person who has chased intense experiences. Even now I still go,
I think we just want to do these things so we stop feeling like shit. And it's just that reminder, right? It's that reminder. I'm that 40-year-old guy. When did I feel good? I felt good when I had the fucking PlayStation when I was 12, right? Because I feel like shit. What is it that I need to do? So we go back to that feeling. What is it? I feel down. I feel like shit. Yes, I feel sad. I feel all of these. Okay, how did I not feel like this? I was doing the ice baths. I was doing things. So we're doing it because we're feeling into getting out. We're trying to escape this fucking hole that we always seem to find ourselves in, right? Like it's just constant.
But this is the contradiction I found in that. And I hear what you're saying. Don't get me wrong. I think they're very powerful practices and not invalidating.
Is it powerful because I raised my voice a little bit?
It increased the power by 13%. No, but I guess where I'm like coming from is the contradiction. Like I've got 3 young kids and they don't do ice baths. They don't surf big waves. They don't fucking do all this sort of shit like breath work. Like I'll get them breathing. But look at them. They're fucking loving life. So you look at a kid, they're not doing all these things. They're not taking the plant medicines. They're not going blasting themselves open and all sorts of shit. You look at these children that are under, 7 years and under, or some of them in 10 years and under, depending on how they've been brought up, and sometimes 16 and under, depending on how they've been brought up. They're fucking loving life. They're not taking anything. They're not doing anything so out of the ordinary. Like they might be doing canoeing, canyoneering. They might be surfing. They might be skating. But they're not having to do these experiences to not feel shit, to not do this. And I know for, most of us, like I don't mind sauna. I enjoy sauna. I don't find saunas to suck for me. Ice baths, different story. It takes a bit to get me settled in an ice bath. I'll always jump in, but it's pretty fucked every time. But these things, I think, like, what I'm kind of speaking to is more so is like, do you think that it's what's happened for more so our generation, especially, is like now we're replacing, going from like, addicted to things that are unhealthy to now we're addicted to things that are healthy.
I think we're adding something that's missing. I think it's that missing link.
Yeah, there is. I know there's that part. It's like, we live in houses that are warm and comfortable, warm clothes. Back in the day, you would be walking through cold, having cold baths for you.
Well, but were we?
Yeah, true.
Were we? Like, I was listening to something the other day and they made a very interesting point. And that was that we're sort of asking ourselves, or we're trying to connect the dots on who are we? It's like no one seems to know who we are, right? We're a mystery. Where did we come from? Oh, we got Darwin's theory of evolution, whatever. Darwin fucking knows everything, right? We can't even go and ask him like what. But if we evolved from apes, well, what the fuck did apes evolve from? Right. So there's this question of like, oh, well, it must be them. But I don't think so. I think we're all just sort of, if you look at tribal people exist. You know, if you look at different types of people in different suburbs and different areas, like it's all like, I'm starting to believe that I don't think it's what we think. And
yeah,
there is this thing, you're talking about rabbit holes. You can go down a rabbit hole of these capsule babies where back in like the early 1900s, late 1800s, there was like train loads of just babies that just appeared from nowhere. Who knows where they come from? Where was their mum and dad? Who knows? But you could buy it. It was like adoption, right? But like, it's like, were we just engineered? Like, you know, 150 years ago, maybe. We could have been engineered, like whole of history could have been a lie. 2,000 years ago, Jesus wasn't here. It's all a lie. So we don't question where we're heading, because if we knew where we come from, maybe we didn't evolve. Maybe we're not tribal. Maybe we ain't shit. Maybe we're just in this weird, we're just being created. We're not connected to apes. We weren't like once things, a fucking bit of seaweed in the ocean and just
little plankton.
So, yeah. Like that's not what we are. We're something completely different, right? But this is why we do all of these things, because we're in search of who are we, because it doesn't fucking make sense.
Dude, I agree with you. Like, I totally agree with you. Like I've had all these thoughts. Like I was watching that fungi documentary with the kids the other day.
Paul Stamets?
Paul Stamets one. And he's talking about like the stoned ape theory. And I was just like, it's just, no, just can't. I'm all with what you was like, were we engineered? Are we engineered by something higher than us that we, you know, my wife always shares a dream with me that she had when she was a kid, where we were living in a dome and giants actually created us. And I was like, well, she used to have this recurring dream where, you know, there's these giants that roam the earth and we lived in a dome, and they actually were the ones that like were the overseers of the little people. And connected to the whatever was higher. And she shared this. She said, "Yeah, it was this recurring dream used to have when I was young." I was like, "Fuck, that's a gnarly dream to recur to have," because that goes into like Tartaria, the flat Earth dome theory, mud floods, all sorts of stuff. Which I'm not opening up because I'm running out of time, so might have to put a slot in for 6 hours of chatting.
Well, I didn't even tell you how did I get here.
No, I know. That's what I mean. Like we've been going on lots of different little paths. But I'm open. Would you like to share for the last moment?
Yeah. Well, actually, you know,
would you like to do a part 2?
Yeah. Well, stay tuned. If you like what I'm about to say, then you can come for the next one. But I just think, in all, like, you know, where we're going moving forward is I think that we all, I like it. We don't all have to save one another, but I think that we all sort of need saving, right? And I think that we all need to serve purpose. I mean, it's very weird because you can go into so many different realms of like, what is reality? Like, is my reality really reality? Like, I don't know, like, is yours? What's yours? What are those people that are in the city living a city life? You know, it's like this what do they call it? Techno-sapien or whatever. Like, you know, like it's on their phone, you know, like we're all on our phone, but just like on the phone and just so plugged into that. And you're in living a city life in an apartment, you know, like you're not in nature, right? You probably don't even have a garden. Like there's no access to nothing. Like you're just living in a shitty apartment, right? Like that person that's plugged into that version of themselves that they're actually playing out, that NPC, right? Like they wouldn't even care or be interested in what we're talking about. Like this, what we're discussing, like wouldn't even mean anything to them. It'd be completely irrelevant. And in their life, fear probably doesn't even exist. You know, like they're just living in this bubble, right? So it's like, how do I sort of think that I need to save that person that's living in their own bubble with not even a care in the world? They don't even care. They don't care if they do an ice bath. They don't care if they do a float tank. They don't care about anything. They don't need to smoke weed. They don't even have a sip of wine. They don't care. They're just living this life. But I sort of feel that everyone needs saving for something. And what is that something? What is that something if we are all wakening up to something? You know, it might be like we're waking up because news media is shit. We're waking up that, hey, like, fuck, we go to school, we get indoctrinated, then we get forced out to these jobs where we have to give an invisible man a percentage of our salary, but then we also have to take another percent of our salary and give it to another invisible man known as super, which we're not allowed to touch. We're not allowed to access. Money's losing its worth in value. So, you know, that 20 years ago, my $57 of super is only worth fucking $6.99 today, right? So we live in a society where we're giving shit away, and, you know, to find ourselves 60, 70 years old, that we're just still a prisoner, right? We're a prisoner and we're enslaved in this. Oh, we're entitled to the pension now, right? So this life, you know, like this whole fucking trap, you know, like where is this going and where are we actually heading, right? So is an awakening that of realizing, well, that's not fucking life. You know, any chance you get, they just want to, you know, put you, I call high-rise buildings sophisticated prisons, you know, apartments. Like, why would you want to live in a sophisticated prison? Like, I'm looking at buildings now. I'm looking at environment. I'm looking at all of these things, and I'm thinking there's a bigger picture that's ahead, you know, and I'm sort of questioning that. What is that? Is there like a doomsday scenario, apocalyptic event ahead? Has Hollywood been trying to, although they subliminally program us, like, is there looking glass technology? Does somebody know something that we don't? They talk about climate change. They talk about catastrophic event. You've got Randall Carlson that talks about, and Graham Hancock that talk about all of these events. Like, is this what we're facing ahead in 10 years, 20 years, some major disaster that we're all wakening up to? And we all need to tap each other and go, hey, like, take a minute. You need to love. You need to be kind. You need to be happy, because time's fucking running out. You know, not forgive, because forgive or forgiveness is ignorance and acceptance to a possible agenda that may play out, right? This way of where we might be heading, right? So it's not like forgiveness and we got to forgive one another, and it's all be acceptance of your flaws, your faults, and your past. Oh, you know, you got a background. Who cares? It's all right. Forgive. I just forgive you because I know my government's corrupt, and I know that they're trying to enslave me further. But it's okay, man. You got to love one another, right? So what are we doing? What are we doing here? Where are we going? Right. I feel that, I don't know, I feel that there's a lot of us that are calling to something, whether it's, you know, a lot of us are suffering from mental health, addiction, all of these things. And, you know, trying to share a message where you could provide the right information to other people to hear, you know, these types of things, these types of conversation, to maybe potentially form community. So for me, that's where I'm going, to try and lean in and help others.
Yeah, what you just said is kind of where I'm at. It's like we're in the same sort of place. Like, are we awaiting some apocalypse? And I always see it as kind of like, what's that movie, 2012 or something? It's like 100-foot wave, not 100 foot, sorry, 1 mile wave or some shit. Things like that.
There's a guy called Jason Brashears, and he's archaics.com. And I think it's within all of us, but I don't think it is. I think it's I think it's us manifesting that, and I think this is why Hollywood movies shows us such things. You know, you've obviously seen Terminator 2: Judgment Day.
Yeah, that was,
You know,
that was
that's
a long time ago.
you know that scene with Sarah Connor and she's shaking on the fence and a nuclear bomb goes off.
Yeah. Vaguely,
Ever since I seen that as a kid, that was the first time that I'd ever seen a nuclear bomb. I would never have even known what a nuclear bomb was.
Mm.
I watched a clip of Alex Jones the other week, and they showed that clip, and I had this flashback to when I was a kid, and I never thought about it since. And I was like, wow, that put something in my mind when I was a kid to believing that. So whenever I see a war, I constantly think that this is the outcome. We're in World War III because of that message that was implanted in my brain from Terminator 2. So this is why they show us movies such as like 2012 and Contagion and all these things. So we manifest it and we can create it because we live in this, and this goes into the flat earth and the globe theory that I think we just live in a universe that we actually manifest and create. I don't think it's space. I don't think it's flat earth. I think it's whatever we create it to be, you know, and if we all steer into believe something, then we can create that, we can manifest that it actually is space. And there is a place for us to go called Mars. You know?
Yeah, I like that point, and I've sat with that, and it feels true. Like I feel like if we were all one pointed, and if you look at like one of the first steps of spiritual practice is concentration, right? Concentrate your will upon something. Or if people talk about manifestation, concentrate and focus upon what you want to manifest, and all the steps will occur, blah, 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 blah. But if you look at that from a collective point of view, like what you're sharing, it's like what all the different seeds that Hollywood and Hollyweird and all that sort of those movies that have planted in us. And, I got brought up on TV as well. So,
I always say this completely backwards. What
is that? Palo Santo.
That's it. I always call it San Palo.
But
you know what this is?
Why are you holding up a stick?
Do you know what this is?
Do I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what that is. I use that.
No. Do you know what this is?
Well, it's a bit of stick.
This is holy wood.
Yeah.
Right. So Hollywood being that of holy wood, so casting spells. Have you watched the documentary called Out of the Shadows?
Oh, I didn't watch it all. I did watch most of it. But it was made by that guy who was
the stuntman.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I watched.
He talks about holy wood, spells, spelling, programs, channel. Programs on the TV because you're being programmed, channels because it's channeling to you, and Hollywood. I don't know if this is the holy wood that they're talking about, the abracadabra spell, but Palo Santo, San Palo, whatever.
San Palo, Palo Santo, yeah.
That this is, I don't fuck with this anymore. I used to burn it and I used to do things. I think I used to cast spells on myself.
It's interesting because I stopped using it as well. I
think it's fucking witchcraft.
But I feel like this is how I kind of helping the viewers understand how to unfuck themselves is like what you've just shared, programming, the spells, the spelling, the language, all the different language and how it's constructed, television, all that sort of stuff. Like a lot of these beliefs are coming through screens towards us, right? And if you want to unfuck yourself and start to really, you have to, not everything, most things are contained in language and spelling, right? Programs, language, and spelling. And that creates the prison that you start to live from. So, for instance, even like talking about like apocalypse, my mind never really goes to nuclear disaster, but it will go to zombies, or it will go to like natural disasters, right? Because of the language, the spelling, the programs, or the TV shows I used to watch that have formulated that sort of in a psychic contract, right? We don't know if it's going to happen or not. You don't. But, like there's people out there that really believe and are prepping that a zombie apocalypse happening. And maybe it happened. Maybe it did happen in a parallel universe.
Do you know what I said to my nan before she died? I said that I think that we get a moment before we die and we say to ourselves and have an aha moment and go, oh, I made that all up. I created all of that. I made that all up within the imagination. And she said to me, you know what? I think you're right. But we worry ourselves. We stress out. And that's all through thought. Is like, okay, let's just say Hollywood is mind controlling us and subliminally programming us. Well, what do they know? We're just a couple of nobodies. I'm not going to say nobodies. We're somebody, but like in the big scheme of things, we're just a couple of nobodies that live in, in the ghetto, right? In the neighborhood, in whatever. Like when, like, who are we? Like we're not fucking Steven Spielberg. We're not Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Like we're nobody, right? But this is what we think. This is what we think it's actually doing. So could it be possible? But this is actually what it is doing, and this is what Hollywood is designed to do to mind fuck you like that. Like look at the entire network of the Hollywood industry, the TV industry. Like they're all Jewish. Right, they're all Jewish. Like, look at everyone on Sex and the City; they're all Jewish. Everyone is Jewish. So what is that connection? What is that secret with Israel? What is it that breed of human can do? Can they tap? Like, if you look at what Steven Spielberg done, or George Lucas done with fucking Star Wars in the 80s, like, how the fuck did his mind create that and be able to put that like on a film, and especially the type of film that they had back then? Like, how the fuck did George Lucas figure that out and put that on a fucking film so people could watch in the cinema, but have all of these different Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, and how the fuck can he do that? But like, we're riding around on fucking push bikes, fucking kicking potholes. Like, what is it that the Jewish or the secret of Israel, that this bloodline, like, what is it that they're capable of? What is it in their DNA that every single person in Hollywood has to be Jewish to be able to do that? So like, how do they do it? Do they have, I'll go back to saying looking glass technology. Do they know something that we don't, right? But there is a big fucking secret there, and I don't think that it's a coincidence that is actually what it does. Me seeing Sarah Connor look at a nuclear bomb on Terminator 2 that had then programmed me, because, it stole something from me. Mm-hmm. It stole my internal belief that I get the right to live a full, happy and peaceful life. But any given minute, I get fucking scared because I think there's going to be a nuclear holocaust because of that moment. So it must be intentional.
It has to be, without opening up too much, because I've got to go in a minute. But I feel like it comes back to what you were talking about, like DNA, genetical DNA. Are we just genetically engineered? Is there, you go into the Anunnaki, go into like
Lemurians.
Lemurians, Atlantis. Like, if you went all into that, it's like, who knows, right? Inner Earth, Hollow Earth. Like, are there like the Nephilim? Is it Nephilim or something?
Nephilim, yeah.
Nephilim. Like, it's a lot of it's in the Bible. Like, a lot of it, like, there's hidden books from the Bible that are taken out and whatnot. So it's like this.
Well, I don't believe shit unless I see it. That's it. I don't know if the Earth is round or not. I don't know. Is the Nephilim exist?
You don't know. You don't know. And this is like a guy I study is like Peter Ralston. He's a fucking crazy cracker. Look at him on YouTube. He's pretty good. Doesn't talk about this kind of stuff, but just how to see life. He talks about that. He goes, one of the examples he gives is like about not knowing. It literally uses the flat Earth and the globe theory, and it's like people like, no, it's the globe, and no, it's the flat, and it's like, but have you seen it? Have you seen an experience that is flat or is it round? And everyone's like, oh no, so you don't know, and that's ultimately it's like, is God real? I don't know. I think I've had some experiences. I don't know, but
we made it all up.
Have we made it all up?
I created this. I made this up.
We're making this up now.
That's it. Well, James.
Yeah. I'm going to leave it there, but I think we should do a part 2 because we didn't get to...
You done all the talking.
Well, you're asking the questions, my man. Yeah, I did all the talking, but it was good. It was a nice little chat. So
it is the Surf Shack.
Sacred Surf Shack.
Sacred Surf Shack.
Yeah, with James.
James from the Sacred Surf Shack. It's been a pleasure.
Mm-hmm. As with you.
Point Break, best movie of all time.
Oh, mate, it is. Yeah, 1 and 2. Keanu Reeves one's fucking epic.
2's a bit.
Yeah. I think 2 is good from the new.
Isn't it weird? John Wick was there again. Johnny Utah.
Yeah, Keanu Reeves. Yeah, exactly.
Johnny Utah.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to part 2. We'll get into some more review. Thank you for being a co-host as well. Podcast yourself. So I'll let everyone know where to find you. Do you want to let everyone know where to find you?
Yeah, of course, man. The Game Experience Show. That's it. On YouTube. Or the Game Experience 2.0 on Instagram.
Awesome. I'll put that in the show notes. Everyone look out for part 2. Really enjoyed this afternoon's chat. It's just, it flowed nicely. It was really enjoyable.
My chair just made a noise then, so I don't know if you heard it, but it just creaked, and I was like, oh my God, does that sound like someone pass-winded on the
fall through the floor?
I'm going to do it again. I want it to do it again just to, if someone go, hey, he just farted at the end. That was a chair, for fuck's sake. Anyway. All right, my man.
Peace out,
It's
brother.
been good.